Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm bringing you guys another episode of Meta Monday. Today is going to be the first Meta Monday of the new patch. We just had a pretty big patch last week. We had quite a few nerfs. We had quite a few nerfs to very specific decks, but overall not very many nerfs, and I think not a lot of nerfs to decks that people kind of wanted nerf. Like there was no Nora nerf. There was no, if anything, Nora kind of got buffed a little bit. But there was nerfs to like the Reveler's Feast Tristana. So we did it. I've been telling you guys Reveler's Feast broken, Reveler's Feast OP. We should find a way to abuse Reveler's Feast. And lo and behold, I was right. It was very broken, and they nerfed the card before the card even got to take off. And the card didn't even get to take off in play rate, and it already got nerfed. As well as we got introduced to a couple new cards. So we got this card that I'm sure is going to be in this deck called... I don't know what it's called. Oh my god, it's not in this deck. Wait a minute. Okay, a card that'll most certainly be in this deck called Formula, which is a 6 mana burst speed card that is 6 mana burst speed, draw 2, and then refill your spell mana. So it's essentially just 3 mana, draw 2, which is kind of silly. And we'll go over this deck obviously here in a minute. We got Banana Blaster, which I have a video coming out on that tomorrow. Good old Banana Blaster's pretty cool. Yeah, we got quite a few new cards in the new patch, and then like I said, mostly a bunch of buffs and some nerfs here and there. But yeah, let's get into it and see how the meta kind of adapted. Beforehand, last week's meta was like a lot, or not last week's meta, but the previous week's metas have been a lot of like Noxus control into SI control, with Rise was like the most played deck in the game. And so now we have a bunch of decks that actually kind of beat Rise and kind of counter it just because of the amount of power and aggro they have. Like you see here, Elites 70% into Rise. I don't know. I think Jace Lux should also be pretty okay in Rise. Yeah, 60% into Rise also. So, you know, we got a bunch of buffs and new cards, and those buffs and new cards are actually, pretty decent into Rise. So, before we get into the Meta Monday, though, I wanted to remind you guys that 68% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. So, if you do me a huge, huge favor, click that subscribe button, comment down below what deck you've been using to climb. Helps me out so much with the YouTube algorithm, and I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate all of you guys that do that. So, plus it's free and you can always unsubscribe later. But yeah, competitive content's great. It's going great. Competitive season starts, I think, in less than a month now. Yeah, towards the end of March is when the actual first competitive season starts. So if you have a friend wanting to get into competitive LoR and they want to kind of get their toes wet and learn how the game works before just jumping right into that competitive season, they want to get as much advantage and edge as they can, make sure to lead them here. Make sure to recommend them this channel so they can learn. But let's get into it. So we're going to go over the top 8 most played decks, as well as look at the top 2 or 3 like highest win rate decks and see if they, what's going on here. So number 1, most played deck is Jace Lux. This deck kind of just popped up overnight. I think it's kind of because the Albus Ferris buff. Again, you would think it's because of the new card. Let's see if any of the top lists are playing the new card. Yeah, you're playing Formula. You're playing Formula. I was going to say, I assume they're playing Formula. Yeah, triple Formula. Like all of these decks are on triple Formula, except for weirdo Cocky Baki here is only on 2. But yeah, what makes Jace Lux good? So what makes Jace Lux good is there's not too much Noxus control anymore. Noxus control has kind of died down. You see here, and aggro like isn't really a thing. This deck doesn't do well into aggro. You see here, like its worst matchups are literally Fearsomes, Plunder, which is pretty aggro, Pirates, the Tristana Reveler's Feast, Anti-Gen, like these are literally just out of its 6 worst matchups, 5 of them are aggro. And aggro just like isn't being played right now, and I'm not quite sure why. Yeah, aggro isn't being played right now, and so it's allowing this deck to kind of be super played and do fairly well. I mean, it has a 56% win rate, which is really good. So yeah, this deck kind of evolves around just playing. We'll go to the highest guy here. Kind of evolves around playing just like spell mana. You want to level up your Jace, is pretty cool, and then eventually you get like leveled up Jace and then Lux. So it's kind of like Jace Heimerdinger, except you're playing more mid-rangey like unit package, whereas Jace Hyper can play the more like control-y combo package with like all the Shadow Isle support cards, and then also it leans more into the like Hexa Candler package. But yeah, which we'll get to in number 3 here. Number 2 is Elites. So Elites got some buffs here, and I definitely remember what they are. What were the elite buffs? Oh yeah, we got a 3-mana 4/4 elite that can block elusives. That's pretty cool. I think that's actually like the only big buff that elites got, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, that's pretty good buff. I mean, a 3-mana 4/4 is already good. Like a 3-mana 4/4 is already good. Now it's a 3-mana 4/4 that can block elusives, which is pretty good. But then also it's an elite, so if you go like Battlesmith turn 2, blocking Badgerbear turn 3, you just have a 3-mana 5/5 that can block elusives, and your opponent can't really do anything about it. And this is one of the main reasons why Noxus Control isn't as good into it as you would think. Like, it's pretty not bad into it, but it's definitely not great because, especially like the Nora decks, you can't swing with Nora too often because you basically play Nora on 2, open attack on turn 3, or like if you have attack token, you attack on turn 2, but then on turn 3, they just have this like 4/4 that can block elusives, and you're sad because now your Nora is just gonna die. Yeah, so not too happy about that. It is losing to like other SI hard control decks because at the end of the day, it is still like Demacia mid-range. So you're gonna lose to like this mid-range deck that's just bigger than you, the Noxus or SI control decks. You have these decks that are just like combo decks and probably bigger than you. Lucian Evelyn is like an aggressive combo style deck. And then what are you beating? Oh, you're beating like random stuff. You're beating Rise just because of the amount of pressure you can put down. I've said multiple times. Rise is weak to the like these 6 wide or 6 unit wide like pressure type decks, and that's what Elites is really good at. If you look at the Elites deck, let's look at one of the like top players decks. So if you look at the Elites decks, you see here it's playing like a lot of them are playing 9 1-drops. So it's playing 8 1-drops and then Battlesmith, and then obviously you go like turn 1 like Trusty Ramhound, turn 2 Battlesmith, and then turn 3 triple 1-drop, and Rise just like dies because it just cannot do anything here. And it's just like very, very sad. Even if you just go like turn 2 Battlesmith, turn 3 this turns into free if you just play enough 1-drops. Like I said, if you just go like Elite on 1, Battlesmith on 2, and then you just play 2 more Elites, this is now free. So then you get just like a 0-mana 4/4, which is kind of silly. So yeah, Elites is really good at applying pressure. The really cool thing too is that this is showing you a mono Demacia version, which is most popular. If you wanted to play in tournaments, you could actually just bring triple Elites. Like, it's pretty stupid, and I really hate that Riot Luck allows you to do this. But yeah, you could very much just take this top win rates guys, like probably this guy, because they have almost the same win rate, but he has almost twice as many games. This guy even has more, so you can probably take his too. Oh, sorry, this is wrong. Wrong thing. Here we go. So yeah, so same thing. It has like 1% less win rate, but twice as many games. So we'll look at their list. And what you do if you wanted to play this in a seasonal tournament is you would just like cut off these champions. So you would just put like 3 Jarvan in one deck. Then you would put like, you would put 3 Garen in one deck, like in one deck. Then in the next deck, you would just put like 3 Jarvan and then like a Pale Cascade instead of a Sharkside or something, or a Pale Cascade instead of a Rangers, or no, not Pale Cascade. You just put like one spell of like a random color, like Deny, right? Like you could take out a Deny for something and play it, and then your third deck you would just play like triple Kale instead for your champion slot, and there you go. You're playing like 37 of the exact same cards across all of your decks, and you're playing the exact same deck, and you're just going to have obviously very like clean tables across the board. You're either going to be favored into like triple favored into stuff on your opponent's side, or you're going to be triple unfavored, and you kind of just coin flip all your matchups that way. That's one of the reasons why I hate Riot Luck. But if you enjoy Elites and that's something you don't mind doing, it's something I've definitely done in the past with things like Bandletree, then that's definitely a strategy you could look at to do in these upcoming what are they called, the like upcoming Rumbles and Gauntlets, and the upcoming Open. That's, I believe, 2 weeks from now. So a week from Saturday is the next Runeterra Open. Number 3, Jace Hyper. So I'm not going to go too in-depth about this. It's just Jace Lux, but with the SI package, like I talked about earlier. This person's very leaning a lot into the control package, like the darkness and stuff. I still really like my control, or my Jace Hyper version much more than this. I have a deck guide coming out on Jace Hyper in a couple days, I think Wednesday, and it'll show you my gameplay. And I play like a couple, I don't play like any Quietus, and I'm playing a couple, what is a card called? The like 2 mana make a copy of a unit iterative improvement. So I could copy my Hexacandlers, copy my elusive turrets from Heimerdinger, copy my Albus, I really like that. So yeah, Jace Hyper pretty good. What is this deck? Blighted Ravine Control. Okay, sure. Jace Hyper, pretty solid deck. It beats elites because you can just be like this SI control deck if you need to be. But you're still not too great into aggro because they kind of just run you down. You're not good into fearsome aggro because they run you down and you don't have blockers. All the other aggro decks you're pretty okay into because you can just create a bunch of blockers and you have a bunch of removal spells. And again, you're beating Rise because you're an aggro deck. We went over a lot of this last week. Rise, same thing, nothing really changed. You're still beating the decks you were beating before. You lose to like new decks, like you're losing to a lot of the elite stuff now. But like I said, overall, like your tables are still the same, nothing interesting there. Leona, same thing, nothing interesting here. You're losing to elites because I think elites are just bigger than you, so they match a lot of your tempo, and then they just like play combat tricks, or they play like champion strength, so they go into the late game with champion strength and you don't have that. So if they have like a concerted for your Sun Guardian, or you're concerted for your Ravoon, or if they just out aggro you, then you just are sad and you lose. Ziggs Talia, I just put a video out on this deck. Also, this deck was rank 1 in Americas for quite a while. Yeah, so Ziggs Talia is pretty interesting. This is not the same version I played. I played like a hyper aggressive like combo variant was rank 1 in Americas. It looks like no one else is really on that. Oh, this guy's kind of on that, but he's still on the Absolver plan. Yeah, this is pretty. That's pretty aggressive. So combo heavy. So yeah, same thing here. So half of the players, or almost half of the players, are on the like hyper aggressive combo variant. The other like 3 out of the 5 aren't. So 60% of them aren't on it. Yeah, deck's pretty good. It beats a lot of the combo stuff. So you see here, it's going to be like the kit control because you're just like too fast. It's going to beat like, this control deck, this control deck, this control deck, this control deck, control. Like it's just really good at smoking all these control decks. I don't think you're too good into Rise because typically it's just like once done makes you sad on Rise. But a lot of times because you have Deny, you could actually fill up the stack with things like if you have a Talia in play, like Talia Ziggs swinging, that already fills up 4 out of 10 of the stack. So if you could do things like have double Talia, triple Talia, like whatever, in play because of Hourglass, it's pretty common for you to be able to just completely fill up the stack with this deck, so your opponent can't even put down, a stun, or maybe the stack is so full they can only put down like 1 or 2 stuns. For those of you that don't know, I believe only 9 cards can go on the stack at a time, maybe 10. It's like 9 or 10 burst spells go on, or 9 or 10 fast speed spells can go on the stack at the same time. So, or skills or abilities. So it makes it really easy to just not let your opponent react to you. Number 7 is just elites with Kale. Not really going to go over that. It's literally just elites, but with Kale. I guess one Zolani is pretty cute, but it's just literally elites with Kale. So I was talking about, like, you can just go ahead and take off your, I guess while we're playing the one Zolani. But yeah, if you wanted to play this in a seasonal tournament, or sorry, they don't call them that anymore, but you wanted to play this like a daily rumble or the opens, you just take out these champions, you just play 3 KL, you add in like the Zolani or whatever, and there you go, you're chilling. And then number 8 is Evelyn Kai'Sa. So this deck is supposedly really good. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really see it, but Jordan said it's like pretty good. He has a 70% win rate. I mean, that's not bad. Over 40 games, obviously, so people think this deck is really good, and I'm not too sure why. I do know that Jordan took out the Void Gate. So let's see if other people have kind of agreed with him. Yeah, it looks like everyone's basically taken out Void Gate from their list. Basically, Jordan described this as like you get to play like fair-ish mid-range while stopping your opponent from doing unfair things. And if that's the type of playstyle you want, cool. I still just don't see it. I don't see how this deck is good. You're losing to Kale Leona. You're losing to Orange Axe. You're losing to aggro. You're losing to mid-range. You're losing to mid-range. You're losing to control. Like, if you just look at this deck's stats, it like as far as the real decks it's beating, like Bard Nora, what? That's not a deck. Darkness, okay, that's fair. Katarina Gwen's kind of fallen off a lot. It's definitely a real deck, but like it's reaching borderline like not a litmus test deck anymore. But then like you're beating control, like that's cool. I mean, that's not really a deck. Heimer Nora, like you're beating control against. Like this deck is like fairly good at beating control. Is what I'm getting out of it. Like you're beating Rise, you're beating control. Like deep, okay. Like you're beating like the worst version of elites, but barely. You're like coin flipping it. You're coin flipping the most popular matchup in the game, so I'm not too sold on the deck. I think if your goal is to like beat controls, sure, because like you play a deck that has spell shields and denies and overwhelm and just like OTK potential, so like that can only be so bad into control. But once you stop playing its control, like mid-range, aggro, mid-range, aggro, 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 mid-range, aggro. Like you just lose to like all of the mid-range, all the aggro decks. You even lose to like the Noxus control. Like I would not be surprised if all of Noxus control just beats this deck. Especially since you're not on. Are you playing? Yeah. Especially since you're not even playing the like revive your champion card. So like once you lose your Kai'Sa, you're just like gone. I don't know. It's very interesting. I love to see how this like evolves, but I think it having like a 51% win rate and it doesn't sound very promising. Its tables don't look very promising. So it's something that we'll definitely have to keep our eye on to see if it evolves somehow and if people kind of find a way to make it pop off. And so to finish this off, we're going to look at the highest win rate decks. So let's go to current patch and see if Tristana Teemo's still there. Okay, I didn't think so. So now we're going to go to current patch here. So the highest win rate decks on the current patch are currently Fearsomes, Jax Ornn, and Rumble Vayne, which is pretty interesting. And then Jace Lux down there at number 4. So pretty cool that a very high win rate deck also has, a very high play rate deck also has high win rate. So Fearsomes, let's see, what is it good into? I assume just like all of the random new junk that people are playing on top of just some of the good decks. Like, yeah, it's going to beat Jace Lux because you're aggressive. It's going to beat, yeah, as far as like top decks played, is it's beating Jace Lux. And it's beating the like Twist of Fate thing, but yeah, beating Jace Lux as far as like popular decks go, Jax Ornn, Jace Heimerdinger, because you can't really block it. Kayle Leona. So Fearsome's very, very, very solid spot to be in. What are you losing to? You're losing to like Rise. Interesting. That's very interesting. I don't think that should be happening. I think people are probably doing something incorrect for that to happen. Jax Ornn is also beating a lot of the popular decks. Like Jax Ornn is beating Evelyn Kai'Sa. It's beating the elite deck because you're just bigger. Like you just play like this ginormous threat on like turn 3, maybe turn 4, and then your opponent just can't deal with it. And then that threat eventually gets overwhelmed, or you eventually just like play a Jax, and then your opponent's just like, okay, cool, dude. You just play this ginormous unit, and I can't do that. Elites are very good at going wide and applying pressure, whereas Jax Ornn is really good at going tall, which means making one unit very big, or like 1 or 2 units. Very few, like you play less units, but you make them very big. And Elites is really good at playing more units that are just a little bit smaller. So that's why it's going to be better than those types of decks. And then Rumble Vayne, I assume this is just going to be like, oh, I'm beating all of the bad decks, beating control. Control. No, it's beating aggro too, control. Those things kind of like beating aggro and control. You're losing to a lot of the like mid-range decks. No, not even really that. Yeah, here are your mid-range decks right here. So very interesting. I don't really know that. I feel such a weird way about Rumble Vayne because I feel like Rumble Vayne is constantly a deck that's like looks very good, but in reality it's just not. Like it just constantly like you queue into it. It reminds me of like Boggles from Magic the Gathering, where you play into it and your opponent sits down and goes like turn 1 Boggle, and in this game your opponent sits down and goes like turn 3 Vayne, and you're just like, oh, okay, like I guess I lose. And they always have it, and it's like that every single game you play against it. But then when you try to play it, you sit there and you're like, where are my Rumbles? Where's my Cataclysms? Where's my Overwhelm? And you just like can't get any of the combo pieces working. That's been my experience with Rumble Vayne so far. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of it. But it's like consistently looked great across the last like 6 months of LOR. So because it's consistently looked great, it's probably not bad. But it's just not for me because I just can't win with the deck. I just look horrible on it. I'll be completely honest. But that's gonna be it for this Meta Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Those are your top 3 most played decks. I'll have a link to Runeterra AR in the description below because that's what I use for all my stats. Again, not sponsored. I just absolutely love Runeterra AR and think they deserve all the eyes on them as they can get because they're amazing and their stats are amazing. And it's a great place to go and get your, like I said, your ladder stats. You get deck list. It even shows you like content creators, like who's streaming live on the main page, stuff like that. Get you the patch notes, all that cool stuff. So that's gonna be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what deck's been working for you over this first week. So that way, if it wasn't on this top 8 or the highest win rate, other people know what they could be playing to gain LP, just like you're playing. Like if you have somebody that's like, oh, I have this like 75% win rate and I've gained like 200 LP, you know, let people know. Let the people know, and then I might even feature it in a video if it sounds pretty good. So yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.